Okay, welcome everyone to our weekly Chassidus study. We're learning from this week from a mimer, from a discourse from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This particular mimer was said in this week's parsha, which is a double parshas Matos Masei, on the 26th of Tammuz, 1972. So the theme is the theme beginning the parsha. The parsha is called Masei, which means journeys. So the theme of this is the journeys of the Jewish people in the desert. So we know that there's actually 42 journeys that are mentioned here, and each of them was a unique stop, and each place in this parsha is enumerated, right? When they went out of Egypt, so it says these are the journeys of the Jewish people who left Egypt, organized by tribal troops under the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. So they journeyed from the first place is called Ramses, in Nisan, the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on Pesach, on the day following the Passover sacrifice. They left triumphantly in full view of all the Egyptians. Watch them leave. So then again, it's enumerated the 42 journeys until the end. So what exactly are these journeys? Let's see how the Rebbe, what he teaches us, that the lessons that we can learn from these journeys. Okay, so as we said, our mimer begins with this verse. So do you want to show the Chumash? Let's go over here. I'm going to expand this. And this is speaker view, yes. And we're going to go to the Chumash from Sefaria. Okay. Okay, Eile Masei v'nei Yisrael asher yatz'u me'eretz Mitzrayim l'tzivoisam Yad Moshe ve'Aaron. These are the journeys of the children of Israel that, as they went out from the land of Egypt, according to their troops, their hosts, through under the leadership of Moshe, of Moses, and Aaron. So the mimer begins, Eile Masei v'nei Yisrael asher yatzu me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's known that the Lubavitcher Rebbeim, there are 7 generations of Chabad Rebbes, starting with the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe, Admor HaZaken. And here the Rebbe is explaining that in a number of teachings on this parsha from the various Rebbeim, that it's explained that this idea of Masei, of the journeys, it's actually in smichut form, the journeys of, and it's lashon rabim, it's plural.
What does smichut form mean?
Means Masei v'nei Israel, the journeys of the children of Israel.
Okay, so it's like a continuous or connected.
Yes, but yeah, the something of.
Okay.
So first of all, something we have to understand is, why is it plural? And afterwards it says asher yatz'u me'eretz Mitzrayim. So it seems to say that there were many journeys going out of Egypt, right? But in fact, the exodus from the land of Egypt is really one journey, right? The actual exiting of Egypt was the first journey. and all the following journeys were going from here to there and from here to there. and all of the various locations, the stops along the way. So, and yet, it's ki'ilu, it's this all under the category of the exodus from Egypt. It's understood from this that yes, all of the journeys and all of the stops there are all connected to this idea of going out of Egypt. And we have to understand this and learn from this. We also need to understand how the verse then says, Biyad Moshe ve'Aaron, right? Under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. Now, it's actually written elsewhere in Parshas Bishalach, which describes the splitting of the sea and the exodus from Egypt. So it says there, "V'havaya holech lifnehem ba'amud anan," and God went before them and led them with the pillar of clouds and all of the protective measures that God brought to lead us out of Egypt. So there it says God took us out. V'amud ha'esh laila, and there was a pillar, a column of fire at night. V'chein ha'aron haya holech lifnehem, and there was the ark, the Torah, the tablets leading us out. So therefore, if so, lama nakat kan davka Moshe v'Aaron? Right? Why does it davka say Moses and Aaron let us out? If in fact God did through all of these other methods and tools, the clouds and the Aaron and the ark. You have to understand. So what's the role of Moshe and Aaron? So v'yichtov Moshe et es motzehem lema'asehem. Right? The next verse says, verse 2, and Moses wrote, recorded their motzaehim, their going out, their starting points, lemasehem, for their journeys, according to the word of God, al pi havaya. Ve'ele masehem lemotzaehem. And these were their journeys with their starting points. So what does this mean that Moshe wrote? Hare kol Torah katva Moshe Rabbeinu. The whole Torah Moshe wrote. So why is it zeroing in and pointing out this davka that he wrote? Im kain ma'oshe omer davka kan v'yichtov Moshe. Why specifically here? וגם מהו תוכן בייס העניינים שבכתוב, יכתוב משה מוצאיהם למעשיהם, ואלה מעשיהם למוצאיהם. So it seems repetitive that it says Moses recorded the starting points of their journeys according to the word of God, and these were their starting points. Now it's going to enumerate. What is it? What is that teaching us?
Hold on. What I'm going to do is I'm
Write
turning.
questions.
Yeah, I'm going to write down the questions here in our mind map.
Okay.
Okay, it's Matot, A. Masei or Masei?
Masei.
Just get confused. Okay, so the Rebbe's questions.
Are you recording now?
Yes, I'm recording and I'm going to save this. Okay, so the Rebbe's questions. What were the Rebbe's questions?
So why does it say plural, a number of journeys, and that they're all called the going out of Egypt? That we went out through these 42 journeys.
Okay. What's the next question?
That it says that they went out under the leadership of Moshe and Aaron, and yet we learned that God took us out.
Hmm.
And also, he mentions that the Aaron went before us.
Is that the same question?
Yeah, that kilo, it says,
And the Aaron went with us.
yeah, the Aaron and the pillars,
Pillars of cloud
the
and fire.
Amud Anan, yeah, pillars of cloud, and Amud Ha'esh, and the Aaron.
Okay. Any other question?
And then finally, this is it. Moshe wrote their, my husband translates it as their starting points. Literally, Motze'ehem. Motze'ehem means, they're going out on their journeys, like the starting points. It specifically writes Moshe wrote. So the Rebbe asked, well, didn't Moshe write the entire Torah? And a side question there is, it says, and he wrote their goings out from their journeys, starting points. And these are those starting points. Repeats.
Okay. And the Torah repeats second time.
Okay. Who the idea is that the purpose, the intention of these journeys was in order to enter the land of Israel. And our sages say that if we had merited, then we would have experienced the final redemption and entered the land. And the Geula, the eternal redemption, would have occurred. The redemption which will have no exile following it. Could have happened then. Chevan shelo zachu, because we didn't merit, so that the Geula Nitzchis, B'tachlis HaShlemos, didn't occur then. The final redemption didn't occur. And this Geula will come only with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the coming of our righteous Redeemer. as it's written in the verse in Shoftim, Parsha Shoftim. Im yarchiv havaya lokecha es vulecha. Now I would like to just have a, or maybe I could do it on my phone. Because sometimes just to make sure the nekudot on the verse, because this mimer doesn't have nekudot, of course.
Yeah.
The im yarchiv. The im yarchiv. Um, Hashem. And of course, it also comes out without nekudot. Oh, here it is.
Oh. Well, I can look it up in Samaria.
Ki yarchiv. No, it says ve'im yarchiv. Must be a different pasuk. Well, I don't want to. Ve'im yarchiv. It gave me a different, but here it says Hashem Elokecha es gvulcha. Es gvulcha. Ka'asher diber. Ka'asher nishba. No, it's a different pasuk. Okay. Inaccurate. Let's see. Here, I could look up. It does have the sort. Well, see, it doesn't. Here, it doesn't bring Shoftim. So let's Deuteronomy. See, here it is. The Im Yarchiv. Okay, the Im Yarchiv Hashem Elokech es gevulcha. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
When the Lord your God will expand your border, right? It says in Devarim 19 verses 8 and 9. So when the Lord your God will expand your border as he promised, as was promised to your forefathers, and give you the whole land, kol haaretz, which he spoke about giving to your fathers. So this verse is a verse in the Torah that refers to the end of days. Like it's proof that there's going to be a time when God's going to expand the borders because this was never fulfilled. So when that time comes, that'll be the final redemption. And it goes on to say, V'yasafta lecha od shalosh arim. So what are you supposed to do then? You're supposed to add 3 cities of refuge. So this is as I said, a source for the end of days. So Hainu, shekol zman sheyesh rak shesh are miklat. The whole time that there's only 6 cities of refuge, it's proof that still the final eternal redemption has not come. Because those we were commanded to create, and we did. But these other 3, the future 3, represent the final redemption.
So in the final redemption, we will conquer the whole land.
Well, this is speaking about
the Ari Mikla.
Right. Building. You should add 3 cities of refuge.
Okay, so we will. So wait a minute. So originally they had how many Ari Mikla?
6.
6 cities. Redemption.
Yarchiv.
To how many?
Right. So in the Kahas Chumash, it explains when in the future God, your God, will expand your boundary as he swore to your forefathers, gives you all the land of the Cani, Kenizi, and Kadmoni, right?
Yeah.
Those three, there's going to be these three territories, Ammon, Moab, and Edom. Provided that you safeguard this commandment completely by studying how to perform it properly, enabling you to then indeed perform it properly. Namely, the commandment that I'm commanding you today to love God your God and to walk in his ways for all time. You must add, well, here's that verse, you must add 3 more cities for yourself in those territories, in addition to these 3 in Canaan. Now,
So totaling 9.
Mhm.
9 cities of refuge.
Now it's actually in Rashi, Sevi im Yarchiv, Kasher nishba lases lecha, Eretz Keni, Ukenizi, Vikadmoni. In Rashi.
So we'll conquer Keni, Kenizi, and Kadmoni.
And
So-
here in the verse 9, you shall add another 3, hooray, Seisha, 9. Shalosh shebe'ever hayarden, 3 in these areas on the other side of the Jordan, and 3 in Eretz Canaan, and 3 le'asid lavo, Rashi says.
So that would be 9.
Final redemption. Yeah. And it goes on to explain that what's the city of refuge for? That if someone was an unintentional murderer, then these 9 cities, 3 to the west of the Jordan, 3 in the territory I have already assigned to the tribes of Reuven and Gad, and Chetz, half of Manasseh, and 3 in the territory of Ammon, Moab, and Edom. So if a person hates his fellow, lies in wait for him, rises up against him, and intentionally strikes him mortally and flees to one of these cities, so the elders send emissaries and take him from there and deliver him into the hand of the blood avenger that he might die. That's an intentional death. Intentional murder. Okay. So, and that this whole section is talking all about cities of refuge. To shelter unintentional murderers whose close relatives are allowed to kill if they find them outside of the cities. And again, this is in the territory of the tribes Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. Okay, let's go on.
Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh. Okay.
So again, this and we see in Rashi it talks about Atid Lavo, the final future, the ultimate redemption. So why is the Rebbe bringing this down here? He's saying that we didn't merit when we went out of Egypt to go immediately to the final redemption, but we will merit, Bezrat Hashem, soon. So he says, again, the purpose of the journeys is to enter the land of Israel. So the Masaot, he's saying this is showing that really the Masaot have not been completed yet until we come to the final redemption. That's the final stop. And from this, we understand that Inyan Hamasaos, these journeys, apply to the Avodas Hadam Gam Bizman Hazeh. They apply to us in our time and in every time.
The service. Adam. Our service.
Yes. So explains, brings down from the Baal Shem Tov now. It says that the Baal Shem Tov, Al Pi Torah Baal Shem Tov, we learn that each and every Jew goes through in his lifetime 42 journeys. That's a chiddush from the Baal Shem Tov.
Oh, and that's where it corresponds to the 40 for the Nabokoach.
We're going to get to
We're
that.
going to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
there.
I mean,
Okay.
actually, I don't know if the Rebbe brings that down. Right. That was my addition.
Okay.
That in, and you could show that now because yeah, I don't think he brings on.
42 journeys.
We each have these 42 journeys, beginning with our birth. Mishas, Bishas, Mishas Ledasa. It's interesting because I remember I used to go to a chiropractor. He was very intuitive, very, very interesting. He was very good healer. And in his office, when you'd come in, he had this like clip going about the advantages of his service, of what chiropractic healing is, and he showed like a woman giving birth, and he said, you know, there's a theory that even just the birth process, how that happens, and that can affect, you know, a person's beginning in this world. And then he shows a baby crawling on the floor and falling. And then all the steps along in our lifetime, we go through so much that we're pretty hardy. We're able to handle a lot, but certainly our souls and our bodies are absorbing and a product of so much. So our whole lifetime, the Baal Shem Tov says, is actually 42 journeys. So let's just mention now, it says we see in our Siddur that there's a section called Anu B'Cheach, which we say in Krishma at night before we go to sleep. We say it as an intermediary or an intermediate stage, of prayer, like a transition stage, an elevation in our prayer. We say it in counting the Omer. And if we look at it, we see that there are 7 verses, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, actually 7 verses, and each verse has 6 words. So 6 times 7 is 42. And at the did I take a picture of this part?
Yeah,
so
we can move it over.
Yeah. So each of those verses, the first letter of each verse, of each word, can be made into like an acronym, a 6-letter form. And this is actually called the 42-letter name of God. So we see how this 42 is very significant and has to do with transition and moving and progressing. Someone in my class yesterday, we were talking about it, and she said that there's some famous book out and the secret code in this book is like, what's the meaning of life? Somehow comes out to be 42. And she was so shocked that it had a source in the Torah because
Wow.
it was like this very, very popular book. So we see 42, Membet, is this very significant idea. So there's 42 journeys, and the Baal Shem Tov says that each of us goes through 42 stages in life. And in particular, these 42 journeys in Avodas Ha'adam bechol yom v'yom. And this affects each and every day of our lives. And each and every day we know, it says in Chazal say, Chayav Adam bechol, right? Bechol yom v'yom chayav Adam l'reses atzmei ki ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim. So every day a person is supposed to see himself as if he went out of Egypt. And here our Parsha is talking about these are the journeys of the children of Israel when they went out of Egypt. So again, this is this idea of going out of Egypt every day. Now, so it says in our Parsha, Ele Masei. These are the journeys. It's understood that these journeys in our life, our daily life, are also going out of Egypt. And the idea is that every day we are made into a Bria Chadasha. We are like a new creation. We're recreated. That is from the Yalkut Shimoni, from the Medrash in Tehillim. This idea, Bria Chadasha, a new being, we have new energy, new potential, and new koach. So it's known that the reason for washing our hands in the morning, that's brought in the Code of Jewish Law, in the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe, it's again because we're becoming a new creation, and we're washing off the previous limitations and the previous impurity and the previous washing off yesterday's issues and beginning with new vitality.
You could translate it as washing off the previous negative forces.
Yeah. Influences. Yeah. So positive. לכן, כשם שבכלוס ימי חייו יש מ"בייס מסעות. So again, in life, there's 42 journeys, and he says also in a certain sense every day. So that's a question. Does he mean that we have 42 stages every day, or that every day is a part of those 42 stages? Let's see. So Biur ha'inyan hu, new paragraph. The explanation is that in general, Esek HaTorah v'mitzvoseha hu inyan shel Yetzias Mitzrayim v'Geula. The tools that we have for going out of Egypt and going through these journeys are Torah, the learning and the occupation in Torah study, and the occupation in fulfilling the commandments of God. So, Limud Torah study, our sages say, Ein lecha ben chorin, that a person is not really free, a free man, except one who is occupied in Torah. Mi she'osek b'Torah. That really, this world and its all its matters and its tribulations and tests and activities that we go through in a certain sense, especially we live in America, those living in America, Western society, uh, we've experienced, thank God, freedom. We're not being uh, suppressed or limited. We have rights. There's democratic ideas of individual freedom, and we have opportunities. But the Torah is telling us, in a certain sense, we're not really free because we become uh, we we fall under the servitude of our, and in a certain sense, it's coming from within, where the drives and the things that influence us, these things are ruling us and controlling us. But a person who learns Torah is really freed from all of that because his godly soul, his spiritual drive is free to connect to God. So it is in doing the commandments as it's explained in Tanya. So you could say that it says the previous Rebbe, who this month was freed from prison. We celebrate the 12th of Tammuz, when the previous Rebbe was liberated, that he said, really, the godly soul, the neshama, never went into exile. The neshama is free, the godly soul, but the body is what goes into servitude, because the body needs food, and the body needs clothing, and the body needs comfort and possessions, and just the whole idea of making a living, and how money is used. Money itself can be something that enslaves a person. So, but Torah and mitzvah gives us it gives us the tool to rise above that and work on bringing the world to a state of geula, redemption. So in this, there's 42 journeys every day. Interesting. 42, he says, b'chol yom. We see this in the service of Kriya Shema. A central part of our prayer is to uh, to proclaim God's oneness every day. Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So it says in Tanya that going out of Egypt every day, meaning the going out of the godly soul from its servitude in this world, being controlled and influenced and limited by the body, is davka expressed by Kriya Shema, that when you say Shema, you receive the yoke of heaven. Ol Malchus Shamayim, Kriya Shema. And in general, when we say Shema, now Shema has different parts to it. So the first part is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. But then we have the second part of Shema. Right? First we say Ve'ahavta. Shema, we declare God's oneness. And then the response, the result to that is you should love the Lord your God. Then we arouse love for God. But then the next paragraph of Shema already is talking about reward and punishment.
Okay, so it has what, 3 parts?
Yeah.
3 different parts. Oneness of God. Of God. And the second part is.
You think we should put it on the screen, or?
I did.
Oh, you put Shema?
Oh, the Shema,
Oh,
no, I'm putting my
okay.
notes on the screen. Yeah, if you want, I can put the Shema. Okay, so the first one is the oneness of God. The second one is
The love of God and doing mitzvahs, right? It says you should teach them to your children and speak of them when you walk on your way, when you lay down, excuse me, when you rise up, and put them on they should be for frontlets between your eyes, the tefillin, and you should write them on the doorposts. So you should put mezuzahs on your doors. So that's the first part. Parsha Shniya, second paragraph, is V'chara'af Hashem bachem. Now, V'haya im shamoa, if you listen to God and fulfill the commandments, then you'll have blessings, rain and grain and wine and oil. But if you don't, then it says there in the Parsha, in the second part of Kriya Shema, then you won't have rain in its time. You'll arouse the anger, right, um, of God, that there'll be punishment. And that's the opposite of Torah and mitzvahs. It says, Yifteh levavchem v'sartem, your heart will be aroused by something in the world and, lust after something, and you'll turn away. So if you abuse things in the world, then it could become a block for you and cause you to turn away from godliness. Whereas the first part of Shema, Moshe and Aaron, beParsha Rishona medubar odos limud haTorah, v'kiyum mitzvahs. First part is talking about learning Torah and fulfilling the commandments with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. So it explains in the Gemara in Brachas that Parsha Rishona, the first part of Shema, is speaking about when a Jew does the divine will, Ritzono Shel Makom. And the Maggid of Mezrich explains that when we serve God in this way, Bechol meodecha, with all your might, and by the way, the word ma'od is mem aleph dalid, and when you turn around the letters, it spells aleph dalid mem. It spells man. That the entirety of man is with your entire being, your ma'od. So when you serve God like that, then you're doing His will, and you're making your osin ratzon shel makom. You're doing His will, but it also says osin ratzon chadash lamala. You're also creating and arousing a new desirous expression of new will from God above.
Somebody's trying to reach you.
That's my daughter.
Okay. Do you want me to put this on pause?
Okay. Does that?
I wanted to add that when the Rebbe, or when the Torah is referring to Adam, man, some people may say that that's just talking about the masculine male. But I learned from the class on Genesis with Rav Manusi that the original creation of the human being was called Adam, and it had male and female in together. And so when we talk about Adam, we're talking about male and female. It refers to the human being, not just a masculine or a male. It includes male and female.
No, I think also there's 4 terms for man: Adam, Enosh,
Gever,
Gever, and Ish.
uh-huh.
So Adam is one of the highest.
Oh.
Like,
Huh.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Adam is 45, which is Ma, the
Okay.
Koach Ma, and Ma Hashem Shoel Me'emach, what does God ask of us? So it's like this ultimate level of 45.
Right. Especially now when people are, all concerned about, identity.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what the Torah says. It's Adam is male and female inclusive.
Right. Adam Mina Adama, from the earth.
Mhm.
And then he separated his side. The side took off the feminine part to make Chava.
That's another topic.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Okay, so the Maggid of Mezrich is explaining that when we serve God, as explained in that first part of Kriya Shema, that first paragraph, with all our entirety, then we're truly doing God's will. Not only doing his will, but making a new will, forming and drawing out a new Chadash, Ratzon Chadash, Milmala. And so this first part of Kriya Shema, from Ve'ahavta until Bisharecha, your gates, is actually 42 words. Isn't that amazing?
Okay, hold on. Say that one again.
That 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 first paragraph of Shema that we say, which we said is connecting to God's will and making a bria, that you're a bria chadasha every day. See, from here, ve'ahavta to uvisharecha is exactly 42 words.
Oh, from Vahafta to Visharecha.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe we should show the
Show the
screen.
Shema.
I don't know, probably even color it. So that's amazing, because he's saying that's a part in our day, Kilu, that when we're drawing down this new journey for our day. 42 words corresponding to 42 journeys. So you want to write that out?
42 journeys.
So, Vihine. Now we're on this new paragraph here. If you want to go through the text. Yeah. Vihine. Milvadzos, in addition to this, that the Masaot is Hala Milamata Lamala. It's the journey is in a way of elevation from below to above. יש עוד עניין במסעות שעניינים הוא בירור עולם. So there's this idea of elevation, and there's the idea of our effect on the world, that we refine the world. Now we know if we look at the Parsha, and we have the map and the 42 journeys, and then we have the enumeration of the journeys from Ramses, Sukkot, Etam to Piachirut, right? We go through all these journeys down to the end. So he explains that Rov Masaot B'nai Yisrael would say Samim Yisrael. Most of those journeys of going out from Egypt were in the desert itself. And at the beginning of the Masaot, it says, V'yis'u miramses Sukkosa. And they traveled from Ramses, a place called Ramses, to Sukkos, to a place called Sukkos. And it says Ramses was, as we said, on the day following the Pesach sacrifice, on the 15th of Nisan, to Sukkot. And that actually, it says that Sukkot, b'ktsei hamidbar, that it's at the edge of the desert. So here the point the Rebbe is making is that most of them were in the desert itself. And at the beginning, they were approaching the desert. Mikol makom, ikar hamasaos hayu b'midbar. The main journeying was in the desert. So on this, he says, we see that, where is this found? In the prophet Jeremiah, verse 2:2. So the prophet sings the praise of the Jewish people. It says, Zacharti lach, chesed nuraich, ahavas kululosayich, lechtecha harai bamidbar, ba'eretz lo zarua. I remember, God says, I remember you, O Jewish people, my beloved. I remember the loving kindness of your youth when you were young, the love of your espousals, of your bridal espousals, that you showed me love as my bride, that you went after me in the desert. The fact that you followed me, the Jewish people followed God in the desert, in a land lo zarua, in an unsown land. By the way, my husband was in his youth, he's a classical pianist and a kind of Yeled Pele in music from a very young age. And he wrote many beautiful pieces, and he conducted orchestras, and he wrote music for orchestras. So he wrote a very, very beautiful song based on these words. And in our family, it's a tradition to sing it in our family gatherings, many of the songs that he wrote. And but this in particular, for me, the words, the meaning is doubly precious, in that it's kind of remembering how he had been in Eretz Yisrael in Israel, in yeshiva in Sfas. And when we met on our shidduch in LA, so he said to me, I want to learn Torah and I want to study, and I have all these special rabbis and learning sources, Rabbi, Velashansky, Alav Shalom, Rabbi Gafni, Rabbi Ginsburg, and all of his teachers. And as he said it, I could see his eyes lit up with love for his teachers and his Torah study. And I agreed to go. So part of the inner meaning of this song is kilu, like remembering how we were very idealistic, and we came to Eretz Yisrael straight after our chasna, our wedding, and began our journeys here in Israel. So, and it was, in a certain sense, it wasn't easy. Eretz lo zarua,
Right.
an unsown land, and a lot of new beginnings and challenges. But Baruch Hashem, we have so many blessings. Baruch Hashem. So and revealed good and Baruch Hashem. So it is with the Jewish people that we followed God into the desert. So here, all of these journeys, here the Rebbe says, most of them were in the desert. And from this, it's understood that the main journeys were Ba Midbar. And the journeys before this, those that were outside of the desert, were only a hachana, were only a preparation for these journeys. Why? The reason is that the purpose of the journeys, the masaos, is to go into the desert that is asher lo yashav adam sham, to go to a place that is uninhabited. And we know the desert is also unowned. It's hefker. And it's also undeveloped, and it belongs to everyone. That's what we got, the Torah in the desert, and we followed God there. And the purpose is lasot mimeno inyan shel bayis, to make a house. Ketif Adam lashevet bayis. That's from Isaiah Yeshayahu. It says that the glory of man, the beauty of a person, of man, is to build a house, to settle a house, in a house, a home. So these journeys were after Matan Torah, after the giving of the Torah. And it's written, where's this found? In Baalescha, Yud, in the, let's see, Baalescha, I think is where in, I really wish they'd write what Chumash it is. I don't know where all the, yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, Parshas Baalescha. It says Vayihi, I think it's Vayikra, I believe.
Okay. You could just take a. Yeah.
Because the verse is Vayihi bin Aaron. I think you're right.
Or
no, I think it's Bamidbar.
Bamidbar. Okay, so it's okay.
But let's see. Naso. Yeah, because I remember learning that recently. Naso. Baalescha. Yeah.
Okay, so
numbers.
Bamidbar.
So we learn as we're going along.
Yeah, fact checking ourselves,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yes. So Vayihi bin Soya Haaron v'yomer Moshe. And it was when the ark would journey, when they went in the desert, they would go with the ark leading them. And it says, V'yomer Moshe, and Moshe would say, Kuma Hashem, v'yafutzu oivecha, v'anusu misanecha mipanecha. That he would raise the ark and say, Rise, O God, and cause our enemies and those who hate us to flee. So this is talking about the journeys. And so that after Matan Torah, they were in the desert, far from any habitation. And why? What were we accomplishing there? We were taking the forces of evil, the klipot, the scorpions and the akravim and the snakes and all the dangerous things that live in the desert, the forces of evil, and sublimating them.
That's what happened in my dream.
Okay, you're journeying through the desert.
I'm on the Parsha.
So you were being machnia the klipot.
That's right, I was that dream.
And this requires, the Rebbe says, a special koach from the ark. The ark is what gave them the koach to conquer the desert. Lezeu hatam al zeh shedor shelo nechnesu la'aretz lo hayu b'makom yishuv ela davka b'midbar. The generation that didn't enter the land were davka not in a settled place, but in the desert.
Hold on, just rewind just a second. So you said that the ark was the vehicle by which they were able to overcome these barriers or push away the forces of evil?
Yes, you need a natinas koach, a miyuchedes, a special empowerment, me ha'aron, from the ark. And that's like kind of, you could meditate on that. When we take the Torah out, when we read the Torah in shul. So we say these verses.
Okay, what's the source of those verses?
That was Ba'alescha. That is Bamidbar 10, verse 35. So in our Siddur,
Bar 10:35.
so we see when we take the Torah out, here's these verses.
Right.
Even Aaron, when and again, Binsoa is the journeys, Masaot.
Same shoresh.
Yeah. So the ark would journey. Moshe said, "Rise up, arise, O Lord, and your enemies will be dispersed, and your foes will flee before you." So in our daily journeys, the Torah is this empowering force that's enabling us to push away and sublimate and elevate all these negative forces.
Yeah, and that's the only way to get Cherut, to get freedom from these forces, is through the Torah.
Yes. And Davka, the generation before they entered the land of Israel, they were Davka in the desert and not in cities. Like it says, Yashavu b'Kadesh Barnea, 19 years. Thus, they were able to dwell יכולים לשבת במקום אחר, shar hazman, v'lo lelechet bamidbar, because then they were able to be in a place for the rest of the time and not to go in the desert. So let's just look at the list of journeys. Like, where does it say Kadesh Barnea?
I'm going to open up the Sefaria. Tell me where to go.
Sorry. Kadesh. I guess that's at the end here. Kadesh. Let's see. It's interesting here at the end, it says, it is clear from here that God did not exhaust the people by making them wander continuously during the 38 years between the sin of the spies and the entry into the land. Of the 42 stations, 14 occurred between the Exodus, the 15th of Nisan, and the 9th of Av, the decree. 8 between Kadesh and the plains of Moab, first of Nisan and then after Tishrei. And the people spent 19 years at Ritma. What's he saying here? He's saying, didn't he say 19 years? Yes, 19 years. So he's getting it from Devorim 1, and I happen to have Devorim here. Devorim 1, verse 46. Here. Devorim is the is the rebuke,
Mm.
that he reviews what we
Right.
did and what happened. So here we stayed in Ritma, opposite Kadesh Barnea. That's what he's talking about here, Kadesh Barnea, right?
So that's in Devarim. Okay.
For many days, 19 years, in fact. That's from Rashi. Let's see. See, it says Kadesh, but then my husband adds Barnea. Kadesh Barnea, Chas Reshana, Rashi says.
And was that not a desert? Or that was a desert?
Let's see, Shinamar. Shar HaMasot, Bishar Masot, Behem Hayu Shloshim Ushmona Shana. Sha'asrei Mehem Asu B'Kadesh, B'Chasrei Shana Holchim, Metorfim, V'Chazru L'Kadesh. V'yin Em B'Midbar, B'Seder Ulam. So it seems to say that Ovrim der Har Seir L'Kanes L'Aretz. בשביל שקלקלו, הפכו לצד המדבר שהוא בין ים סוף לדרומו של הר סער, והלכו אצל דרומו. Okay, well, the Rebbe is saying here that they were able, generally they weren't in a settled place. Yeah. When they dwelled in Kadesh Barnea 19 years, then they were able לשבת במקום אחר שאר הזמן ולא ללכת במדבר. תכלס הכוונה היא להפוך את המדבר ולעשות ממנו דירה לא יספר. Right, so they were able to go in another place the rest of the time and not to go in the desert. Meaning the main avoda was refining the desert. But then they were able to go into another place and do their avoda there.
So maybe that was giving them a break. According to the days that they lived, 38 years, I'm looking at Rashi, 19 years they went moving about aimlessly, and then they returned again to Kadesh.
So Kadesh seems to be the settled area.
It says, Yamim asher yashatem, according to the days that you lived, that Lishevet means to settle. And they spent 19 years in Kadesh. So they lived there longer. It doesn't say anything in Rashi about, the nature of the place, whether it was a desert or not a desert. But, okay.
We departed from Ritma across the border from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered Brook. The time we spent traveling was 38 years. Well, I'm going to discuss this with my husband.
Okay.
Get the diuk of what you can see the sources here, that he's comparing settled land and desert. But the main work of the journeys was to refine the desert.
But it sounds like that it was written in there that time at Kadesh was an opportunity for them to be a little bit more settled, so that life wouldn't be so unsettled.
Like it uses the term yashvu.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Then they were able to go to another place. All right, we need to,
Keep going.
yes, but I will verify the details here. So it is in Avodas Hadam. Right? Kahu gam be'avodas Hadam. That ir pera Adam yulad. Right? There's an idea in Eov that a pera Adam means like an animal, right? A wild
thing.
wild person. A person, yulad, a person was born wild, in a certain sense, unrefined. Basically his animal soul is ruling him from birth. And even though little babies are adorable and sweet and, gentle, right? But really, they're very self centered.
Yeah, that's all they know.
Yeah. Like, wow, I'm hungry. Feed me. Where are you? I need immediate gratification. But they're so cute that it's, you're happy to do it. And after carrying them for 9 months, it's like, and that's part of you. So you want, but they wake you up in the middle of the night and you have to change them. They're in a way very self-centered and wild. All your day, and they don't really care about your needs, baby. So, but through the occupation, Esekat Torah and mitzvahs, through learning the study and understanding of Torah and the observance of the commandments. So, Harehu Osemi Atzmo, you are born, Peradam, but you make from yourself a place of Moshav, right? A settled place for Adam Elyon, for the divine presence, because the whole concept of Adam is also the Eser Sfirot, the divine, the image of God. We're created in his image, and we make a place for divinity to come down. Shayad, for instance, he says the body is made up of parts. So hayad, when you use your hand, where are we? When hayad amechaleket tzedakah. I use my hand to give tzedakah, to give charity, to help someone. Then I'm making my hand a channel and a receptacle for the divine kindness, the sphera of chesed, of loving kindness. V'odzot. In addition, that you, not only are you transforming yourself to a divine being or divine, a refined, holy person, but the whole world, Rebbe says, Poel b'chol ha'olam kulo, the entire world, liot dira lo yisborach, to become a dwelling for God. I know, meaning that when you eat and drink, right? I have some grapes here. I made a blessing on these beautiful little gifts God gives us, these sweet, nutritious,
Yes.
tasty things that he gave for us to enjoy. So when we take the food, ochel v'shoteh, v'lomed Torah, and then you use this koach of to learn Torah and to connect to God, and to do his will, the koach ha'achila hahi, through the energy that you get from the eating, and also through taking netinat stakashalo, again, through not only taking from myself, but helping others and giving to others. And in general, when you are occupied in parnasa, making a living. And we know that making a living is something that is a drive. And in Western society, it's certainly a major drive, from a very young age. What what you're going to do, what you're going to be, how you're going to make a living, how you're going to survive and sustain yourself financially. So parnasa, when we do it in a way that it says in the Gemara, that it says nasata v'natata v'amunah, that you acquire money, you uh, become financially stable, Bezrat Hashem, and blessed, and then you give of yourself. You don't just take it for yourself, but you give it in faith. And there's in the Torah there's an Indian to give a maser, a tenth of your finances to help others, to charity. V'harei hu mivarer ha'olam kulo. You transform and sanctify the whole world. So, in addition, the Torah makes a makom moshav la'adam. The Torah makes the world into a settled place, an inhabited place. Because it actually says the Torah, in certain parts, certain quotes and sections, is actually called Adam. There's a verse in Parshas Chukas that's also Bamidbar, right? Numbers, that says Zos Toras, Zos HaTorah Adam. Right? The words are in an order that literally means those three words. This is the Torah, man. That the Torah itself is connected to the ultimate accomplishment of a human being in this world. וזהו גם עניין עבודת האדם באופן דבכל לבביך ושני יצריך. We mentioned Shema, that it says you should love the Lord your God with all your heart. So Chazal say, why does the word your heart have two double letter base? So Chazal say, B'shnei yitzrecha, with your yetzer hara and your yetzer tov, that you serve God and you utilize all of your potential and all of your drives for good and for holiness. Lahafoch es tiv'o, you got to take and break and transform your nature and transform your animal nature, like the snake. And that is the main avoda. It says in the Alter Rebbe's book, Torah Or, that the work that we do here in this world can be called ibud orot. So the word for service is avodah. Right? So ibud orot, it's also with an ayin, yes. It's the idea of taking and making animal skins. Oh. And that's also in the laws, the halachas, part of the laws of Shabbos are connected to taking animal skins. You have to take the animal, trap it. You have to slaughter it properly, skin it, take the skins and stretch them and dye them and beat them and mark them. And you can make many things. You can make leather. You can also make parchment. Tefillin, we use them and a parchment made from animal skins. So that's like our whole service in this world is like working the animal, transforming the animal into holiness. And it says that the word for or, for skin or hide, is ayin vav resh. So when you complete the work or do it fully, then you transform the ayin to aleph, which you make the or into or,
Light.
into light.
Oh, nice.
And ayin is 70 and aleph is 1. So you're taking the 70 nations, all the separation in the world, and bringing it into oneness, into aleph, into light. So that's the avodah kasha haba al yedei yigia bitul tiv'o. This is our challenge, our work that comes through toil. We have to work hard and nullify your nature, your teva, and sanctify it. So hine, how does this apply to these 42 journeys? So the journeys of the Jewish people, that when they did that initial journey, that gives koach. We said that they got the koach from the Aron. They traveled carrying the Aron that led them on their journey. It's very beautiful imagery that, it's like the Torah is at our head, is our guide, and is our source of blessing and protection. And so it is with us. So that now we can explain why the pasuk says biyad Moshe be'Aharon, that they journeyed. They journeyed under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. And we said before, but wait a minute, God led them, and the pillar of fire, all these things. So why Moshe and Aaron? The Rebbe explains. Says that Moshe and Aaron, so the Jewish people are like the bride, and God is the so to speak the groom. So it says Moshe is the Shushbina de Malka. He is at the wedding, he is the escort of the king. And that represents the flow of benevolence that's coming from above, from the king.
Okay, so you just said they journeyed under the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. And the Jewish people are like the bride, and Hashem is the groom. And you said two other ideas in there.
So we at a wedding there are escorts of the bride and groom, and Moshe represents the escort of the king, the Shushbina de Malka, which is the escort of the groom. And the male represents this Habshacha Milamala Lamata. That's like drawing down from above all the benevolence. So Moshe is enabling that and leading us in that. So the union of Moshe, and that's why we know Moshe is the one who got the Torah. And the Torah is called, it says Zichru Torahs Moshe. The Torah is even called the Torah of Moses. Avdi, Moshe Avdi, my servant. Because he sacrificed his soul for the Torah, and therefore it's called on his name. And that's why it says here, V'yichtov, in our verses, V'yichtov Moshe, Moshe wrote, and he wrote these journeys and recorded these journeys at their starting points, according to the word of God. So V'yichtov Moshe, Lachen Ksiv V'yichtov Moshe, and that's the idea that we were empowered to go on our journeys through Moshe. And Aaron so Moshe is the Hamshacha Milamala, the flow of benevolence coming down. Aaron is the ascent from below. And he's called the Shushbina de Matronisa. He is the escort of the bride. And we know Bechlal Aaron was very connected to the people. His Rodef Shalom, he made peace between husband and wife and all these things. So he's like the escort of the bride. And therefore, and we know that Aaron was connected to the sacrifices, the kahuna, the offerings from below, and narrows a menorah, and he lit the menorah, which is also an ascent of the flames going up. And the 7 branches are like the 7 emotional attributes and 7 types of the souls of Israel. So he made an elevation from below. And he lit it. It says when he would light it, it was in a way that the shalhevet ola me'aleha. Not only to stam light it, and walk away, but to light the flame in such a way that the flame continues to shine on its own. And the Rebbe said the lesson here is we have to be lamplighters and light up the world and light up other Jews and their souls, but make sure that the light that we're giving them, they'll retain it, and that the flame will go up on its own and they'll be able to light others. So that's Moshe and Aaron. So Moshe is connected to Limud Torah, and Aaron is connected to Tefillah, prayer. So Limud Torah is drawing down from above, and prayer is rising up, it's elevation. So through Asa Katorah, with Tefillah, we have the koach, the ability to go on our journeys and refine the entire world. And this empowerment is with the utmost strength. It says Vayichtov Moshe. Moshe wrote. So he says Perush of writing is potem, that he signs it. So it's like we say ktiva v'chatima, so that it's sealed and permanent. Chatima efshar lishnoto. Once it's sealed, you can't change it. So the written Torah, that's like the written Torah that we got, right? That it's the letters are unchanging. And in fact, the Sefer Torah, if one little letter is missing a little part to it, it could be that the entire scroll is not kosher, because each detail is important. Even afilu ot, one letter. So it says Moshe wrote et motzaehem lemaseim. He wrote, they're going out on their journeys, the starting points of their journeys, that he drew down, because Moshe is the idea of drawing down from above, the source of the soul of the Jewish people, that should, their journey should be with their totality and for their entire souls, and bring it down below the soul, neshama, down lamata, so that their journeys should be total and complete. So now we can explain another original question. We just answered the question, why does it say Moshe and Aaron? Now we're going to answer the question, why does it say Ela Masei? Masei, plural. And why Ele? That's another question. He didn't explicitly say why Ele. So the avoda of Masei is through Ele. These are the journeys of. So what does this word Ele mean? What does this add? So we find this word Ele in a pasuk in Isaiah 40, verse 26. It says, Se'u marom einechem ur'u mi bara Ele. Lift your eyes upward and see who created these. Mi bara Ele. So this word Ele is found there in that pasuk in Isaiah, and it's also found in another pasuk, which you'll probably be coming to in Bereshis. Ele toldos hashamayim v'haaretz. When God created the world, so then after he reviewed, so he said, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. So that the avoda is the avoda of the world, the olam. Olam is milashon ne'elam. The word in Lashon HaKodesh, in the Hebrew language, for world is from the word concealment. God is hidden in the world. If he would create the world, just come and reveal himself totally, we would be absorbed by it. We would be consumed by the revelation. We would lose ourselves because we would just feel the ultimate oneness. So in order to make us feel like we have, it's as if we're separate and as if we're independent. So he conceals himself, he hides himself. So the world is hiddenness. So godliness is hidden. So me is representing mi bara ele. Who created these? So me means who, but in this case, it also is telling us who is me, that me is the one who created. And me, by the way, is gematria 50, 40 plus 10. And that, so when we meditate here, we lift our eyes and we're mitbonen, we're meditating on who created these. We realize it's God, it's me, it's 50, this completeness. 7 times 7 plus 1. So there's another idea here, this idea, ele. There's a negative side to it, seemingly negative. And this it says in Echa, chapter 1, verse 16. So it says in Echa is what we generally read on Tisha B'Av, right? So we're going into the 9 days, this Shabbos. Bezrat Hashem, we won't need to read Eicha this year.
Right.
And if we do, it'll only be by seeing its totally positive side. But the verse says, on these I cry. Mm-hmm. And this is referring to the matters that are undesirable. Yemei ben hamitzarim. During these 3 weeks, we remember tragedy, we remember persecution, we remember destruction of the first temple, the second temple, and we feel and this can be a source of weeping. We truly think about it. So al ele ani bochim. And this is the undesirable things of the 3 weeks of this time. Aval Inyana Masaot, this journey that Davka, this parsha is during the 3 weeks. So it's teaching us that we're going through the desert to lachnia, to sublimate, these negative things and rectify these things. And that's the whole ain of Golus, the Rebbe says. The Golus and the whole ain of Bein HaMitzarim of these 3 weeks is that it says it came through our Hata'im. It says in davening Nusach Tfilas Musaf of Yantiv, Mipnei Hata'enu Galinu Meretzenu. That we were exiled. Gullus came from our sins. It's hard to believe, but even in the time of the temple, when the Shekhinah was in the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, fully revealed, that our deeds were not on a level totally that reflected that appreciation of God being here and being with us and coming down and showing himself to us. I know, but he points out chet milashon chisaron, right? The word sin is really not such a Jewish, truly Jewish or truly accurate translation of the word chet. So here he says that chet means chisaron, and I've heard it explained. It's like a dartboard, or you're trying to throw an arrow at a concentric circles, and your goal is to hit the center. So chet is like missing the mark. Right? You didn't get your goal. B'dakut. So it could be a very subtle type of lack. Aval mizenim shach, but from that stems the inyan of chisaron bepashtut. And he says, for instance, in our Avodas Hashem, a mashal of this, the response of this, the result is the inyan of choleh. That sickness also is a lack of health, that a person is not in a state of complete health. So the word choleh, gematria of choleh is 8 plus 6, 14, plus 30, 44, plus 5, 49. The gematria of the word choleh is 49, which is again missing the mark. It's 50 minus 1. So all of exile and all of the lack of and the concealment of exile is like the inyan of being choleh. The ad choleh she'en bo sakana, a more subtle type of halachic definition of sickness on Shabbos is that the person is ill, but not in a state of danger. So if he's in that state on Shabbos, there's certain measures are allowed or permitted. And of course, the chas v'sholem, the most severe, is a person who's deathly ill or in danger. So then we know that the person's permitted to do many things to heal that person and to save them. So the main intention of our going through the desert, our avoda in this world, is livatel, to nullify, to push away the evil, v'lahafoch, and turn it around and transform even those matters, those subtle areas of lacking. Ve'al zeksiv al ele ani bochia, that the tikkun on these things I cry, that the tikkun is through what's called habechia de tshuva. So one of the things we need to do, especially during these 3 weeks, is make a cheshbon nefesh, analyze, think where we're holding, who am I, what, think about God and your connection with God, and think, how can you return? How can you reconnect? How can you improve your connection with Hashem? And he says that the crying is just feeling the lack, right? So there's a bechiyah, chas v'sholom, of suffering. There's a bechiyah of tshuva, and there's a bechiyah shel gula. We can transform this time to the actual tears of redemption. So, and that are that's the tears of joy and happiness. Like it says in the Zohar, that Rabbi Akiva, that he wept, his eyes shed tears from the secrets of the Torah that he learned in Shir HaShirim. That when Rabbi Akiva studied the Song of Songs, the love story between God and the Jewish people, he wept, he cried from those secrets and the beauty of it. So it will be with us, the Rebbe says, in the Geula, that we'll have this inyan of bechiyah, me'agiluyim shel hagula, that we will shed these tears of redemption. It's almost as if we won't be able to collect and totally absorb in words or any other way, that the tears of joy, like tears at a wedding or at a birth or what have you. Ubezeh yuvan gam. So it says that the Baal Shem Tov teaches us that the 24 journeys, again, are behemshech yemei chaye hadam.
On a second.
So again, the Baal Shem Tov teaches us that these journeys are in the course, he said that in the course of our daily life, and behemshech yemei chaye adam, throughout our lives. And so we have to understand, how can it be behemshech yemei chaye adam, these 42 journeys? And because he says, Lamaisa, some of the journeys that are mentioned in the Parsha were undesirable, were places of sin, or places of complaining and mistakes and things that we went through that were not so positive. Bilti ritzuyim. Like Rashi says at the beginning of our Parsha, let's just look what he said. Khan, right, when it mentions the journeys, So we went from journey to journey for 40 years. We didn't have rest. So he says, Ein kan ella, here Rashi mentions, Arba'im u'shtayim Masot, 42 journeys. Tsemehem Arba Eser, Kulam ayu b'shan. So, at first they were 14 from Ramses ad to Risma. And from there, the Meraglim, right? And here we say Yisu Michatzeros, Risma, that was in the Midbar Paran. Then 8 journeys that were after the death of Aaron, Mihar Hor, until Arvos Moav in the 40th year, that all the 38 years, Lo Nasu Ella Esrim Masaot. So this is from Rabbi Moshe Darshan and Rabbi Chuma Darashbo, that he says it's like the mashal of a king, that his son was chole, was sick, and he took him from place to place to heal him, faraway places. And when they came back, he began, his father, to recount all the journeys. And he said, here, Shantem, you slept. Kan hu karnu, we investigated. Kan chashashta et roshecha. And here you, whatever, you had a headache. Right? So that's what he's quoting here. He's quoting that. So what does it mean that we want to have these 42 journeys if many of them were not so good? do we want to go through that? Right? But the inyan is that the purpose of the kavana of the undesirable things is bishvil inyan habechira, that we need to have free choice and to be able to tiba bechira chofshit b'hatov, and we should choose the good, and that the bechira is like it says. God says, "Ubecharta b'chayim." I'm giving you good and evil, and life and death, right? Ubecharta b'chayim, choose life. And this is also not only a choice, but a havtacha, that a promise ensuring us that all these things that were difficult and undesirable, and a person can in their own life certainly see all kinds of things that we each have gone through, and and oftentimes don't understand why or what the purpose of something was, that all these things in the Masaot are mitapchim latov, that all of these things are going to be, we'll see that they're all good. Explain in many places that the inyan of kiver sataiva, that the burial places of lust, right? There were times when we lusted for meat, and then we got quails and all these things, and we died. Many people died in plagues, all kinds of things. Is revealing a gilui na'ale biyoter, lamalo v'chinas hachokma. Sometimes things can only come down. It's actually from a higher place in a seemingly negative way. Right? Ela sheyachol lavo mizeh in bilti ratzui. Ve'od zo shegam kishiyeshno in bilti ratzui, when there's something that's not so, is seemingly negative or undesirable. Hare davka be'eretz tzia v'ayev, davka in a parched and thirsty land, yeshno hatzimaon, that when we're tested with no water, davka the thirst and the chukah, it leads to a longing for what we're lacking, and it brings us closer. Al Yedei Avodazu, and through this work of Eile De'ele Masei Bnei Israel, these are the journeys of the children of Israel. Ba'im, we come to the final journey. And let's look at our map, and we'll look at our list. And where do we come to? We come to here, the 42nd journey, what have you, from the mountain of the passes and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, opposite Jericho. Right, so the final journey, it's referred to as Yarden Jericho, which means the Jordan, Jericho, opposite Jericho. So how does the Rebbe briefly explain what that means? He says that the final journey, meaning the goal, in a sense, of our lives and our 42 journeys, is that Yericho, zeu inyan reach, melashon, smell, aroma. And that's the aroma of the final redemption, of the future Geula, the final Geula, Mashiach Tzidkenu, the coming of Mashiach. Dichsiv Bey, and it says about Mashiach in Isaiah 11:3, Verichu b'yiras havaya, that he will smell with the fear of God, and he'll judge through Moreach Vadaim, right? He'll be able to smell and judge through smell, the most ethereal spiritual sense. V'ad shemit kayem inyan, and then we'll see fulfilled pasuk that we quoted at the beginning, that there'll be a future time when God will, the end of days, when God will broaden the boundaries of Israel. Ki yarchiv havaya lokecha es gevulcha. He will broaden the borders of Israel, and we will then include Eretz Keni, Kenizi, Kadmoni, the land of Moab, Edom, Moab. What did we say?
Kenizi, Admoni. Moab, Edom, and what was the third one?
I can look it up.
Okay, we had it at the beginning.
Right.
I don't know if I wrote it.
Well, where's the pasuk? Ki yarchiv Hashem. I guess it's at the beginning.
Yeah.
There it is. It's Shoftim, Devarim 19:8. Sorry. Here. I'm sorry, that's not 19. 19:8. Yes, Ammon.
Ammon,
Ammon, Moab,
and
and Edom. Right. Deuteronomy 19:8. That he promised our forefathers that one day he will broaden our land. And by the way, we know that the 7 Canaanite nations, it says in Hasidus, are the 7 emotions that we're rectifying now in exile. And then when the Geula, when the redemption comes, then there'll be the rectification of Chachma bin Adas. And that's Keni, Kenizi, Kadmoni, the intellect, all of the intellectual realm of reality will be rectified and sanctified. Yavchu yamim elu, and as Chazal say in Yirmiyahu 31:12, that these days, these 3 weeks, and the 9 days, and all of this period when it's wrapped in and defined by undesirable matters that we think about, all of this is going to be transformed and turned around into sason v'simcha, rejoicing and happiness, and moadim tovim, and to festivals and holidays. V'simchat olam al rosham. And Isaiah says, and the eternal joy will be at their head, that the ultimate joy is the joy of the final redemption. You should see soon and immediately.
Okay, so we have the rectification of the 7 emotional attributes, which is the 7 nations, and then the 3 intellectual attributes, right?
Yes.
So make sure. Okay, excellent. I think I got this.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for joining us, everybody.
Yes.